Another important cybersecurity model is the AAA or AAA model, which doesn't have anything to do with the American Automobile Association. The first A refers to authentication, which is the process of proving you are who you say you are. When you claim you are someone, that's called identification. When you prove it, that's authentication. If I drove from Rochester to Canada and told the Border Patrol, I'm Jonathan S. Weissman, let me into Canada, I would get some strange looks at the very least. Authentication requires proof in one of three possible forms. Something you know, like a password. Something you have, like a key fob. Something you are, biometrics. When you combine more than one of these categories, that's called multi-factor authentication. And that really is the future of authentication. Multi-factor authentication makes it really hard to authenticate as someone else, impersonating them. Because if a hacker steals your password, he'd also have to possess a small key fob with a code that rotates in parallel with code on the server you're logging into. Or he'd need your iris, retina, or hand geometry. Using two passwords is not multi-factor authentication because they both fall under the same something you know category. It's like putting two locks on your door at home. They could be opened with the same key. There was a belief at some point that biometrics would simply replace passwords. But especially with all the data breaches in recent years, it's very clear that while you can change your password, you simply cannot change your biometrics. If your biometrics are stolen, then what? You also lose anonymity when using credentials that are directly tied to you. Your profile can easily be constructed, tied to all your actions, linking together everything you do and everywhere you go in cyberspace. Not that sharing credentials is necessarily a good thing, but if you temporarily had to, for instance in an emergency situation, and biometrics was the only option, then what would you do? What happens when you grow a beard and the biometric authentication fails? False positives and false negatives are legitimate issues and could restrict or even allow access in error. These are the most compelling arguments for a combination of authentication methods known as 2FA, or two-factor authentication. Many companies like Google, LinkedIn, and banks have recently enabled their sites for this 2FA system. Sending codes to your phone through SMS, short message service, text messages. You use these codes that are texted to your phone in addition to a password to access an account. NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, subsequently denounced two-factor authentication through text messages. They stated that 2FA with SMS should be deprecated immediately due to the fact that SMS messages can be intercepted or redirected. NIST recommended other options like Google Authenticator or even certain USB dongles. However, Google, Twitter, Facebook, and tons of other major websites are still using text messages for two-factor authentication today. NIST's demand, at least to this point, has been completely ignored by both companies and their users.